This is the truth no one is telling you about the 2026 to 27 Dodge Hornet, and it completely changes how you should look at this SUV. Because on the surface, it looks aggressive, sporty, even premium. But underneath that bold design and loud branding, there's a story that most reviews either skip, or don't want to say out loud. At first glance, the Hornet hits hard. The front fascia carries that unmistakable Dodge attitude, sharp LED signatures, a wide, planted stance, and a grille that feels like it's ready to inhale the road. It's not trying to be subtle. It wants attention, and it gets it. Compared to the softer, rounded shapes dominating this segment, the Hornet looks like it belongs in a completely different league. It's muscular, tight, and purposeful, almost like a scaled-down performance SUV rather than a typical compact crossover. But here's where things start to get interesting. Because this SUV isn't built from scratch in the way you might expect from Dodge. Beneath that aggressive American styling sits a platform that traces back to Alfa Romeo engineering roots. And that changes everything. Suddenly, this isn't just about straight-line power or bold looks, it's about handling, balance, and a driving character that feels far more European than expected. And when you push it, you feel it immediately. The steering is sharper than most SUVs in this class. The chassis feels tighter, more controlled, almost like it's encouraging you to drive harder instead of holding you back. This isn't the kind of SUV that just gets you from point A to B. It wants to be driven. It wants corners. It wants speed. And that's something very few compact SUVs genuinely. Now let's talk about performance, because this is where the Hornet starts splitting opinions. Under the hood, it offers turbocharged powertrains, including a plug-in hybrid setup that brings surprising punch. On paper, the numbers look impressive: quick acceleration, responsive torque, and enough power to challenge rivals that usually play it safe. But the real story isn't just the numbers. It's how that power is delivered. There's an urgency here, a sharpness that feels closer to a hot hatch than a family SUV. But there's a catch, and this is the part most people won't emphasize. That performance comes with complexity. The hybrid system, while powerful, adds weight and intricacy. And in real-world driving, especially in traffic or longer commutes, that complexity can sometimes show up in ways you don't expect. The transitions between electric and gasoline power aren't always perfectly seamless. It's fast, yes, but it's not always effortlessly smooth. Step inside, and the Hornet continues to play this dual personality game. The cabin feels driver-focused, almost cockpit-like, with a strong emphasis on control and engagement. The materials are solid, the layout is clean, and there's a noticeable step up in design compared to older Dodge interiors. You get digital displays, a modern infotainment system, and enough tech to keep it competitive. But if you're expecting full luxury, this is where expectations need to be adjusted. Because while it looks premium, it doesn't fully commit to that luxury experience. Some surfaces feel high-end, others remind you that this is still positioned below the true luxury segment. It's not trying to be a full luxury SUV, it's trying to be something more unique. Sporty, edgy, and slightly rebellious. And depending on what you want, that can either feel refreshing, or slightly and then there's space. From the outside, the Hornet looks bold and substantial, but inside, it tells a slightly different story. Rear seat space is decent, but not class-leading. Cargo capacity is practical, but not exceptional. This isn't the most spacious SUV in its category. It prioritizes design and driving dynamics over maximum usability. And again, that's a deliberate choice, but it's one you need to understand before buying. Now here's something that really separates the Hornet from the competition: its personality. Most compact SUVs today are designed to appeal to everyone. Safe, predictable, and easy to live with. The Hornet does the opposite. It has attitude. It feels like it was built for someone who wants something different, something with character. It doesn't blend in, and it doesn't try to. But that bold personality also brings trade-offs. Ride quality, for example, leans toward the firmer side. You feel the road more than you would in softer, comfort-focused SUVs. On smooth highways, it feels stable and planted. But on rougher surfaces, that sport-tuned setup can remind you that comfort wasn't the top priority. It's not harsh, but it's definitely not soft. Technology is another area where the Hornet walks a fine line. The infotainment system is modern, responsive, and packed with features. Connectivity is strong, with smartphone integration and digital customization that keeps everything feeling current. But the user experience isn't always as intuitive as some rivals. There's a slight learning curve, and certain menus can feel more complicated than they need to be. Safety features are all there: driver assistance systems, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping support, but they don't redefine the segment. They do the job, and they do it well, but they're not groundbreaking. And that's a theme you'll notice throughout this SUV. It doesn't dominate every category. Instead, it focuses on delivering a specific kind of and here's the truth that really matters. The Hornet isn't trying to be the best all-around SUV. It's trying to be the most exciting one in its class. And in many ways, it succeeds. It offers a driving experience that feels more alive, more connected, and more engaging than most of its competitors. But to get that, you have to accept its compromises. Because this isn't the most comfortable, the most spacious, or the most refined SUV you can buy. It's something else entirely. It's for people who don't want boring. For people who are willing to trade a bit of practicality for a lot more personality. And that brings us to the biggest question: should you actually consider it? If you're looking for a safe, predictable, family-first SUV, there are better options. Ones that prioritize comfort, space, and simplicity above all else. But if you want something that feels different every time you get behind the wheel, something that actually makes driving enjoyable again, the Hornet becomes very hard to ignore. Because once you understand what it's really trying to be, everything about it starts to make sense. The aggressive design, the sharp handling, the slightly compromised comfort, it's all part of a bigger picture. A compact SUV that refuses to play by the usual rules. And here's the truth that really matters. The Hornet isn't